is Chief Executive of the NHS Confederation, a membership organisation for all parts of the health service, including hospital trusts. So I'll be interested very much, Robin, in your perspective. What do you think is going on at the moment?
Thanks, Peter. I think it's clear from the figures that we're seeing two things happening which can explain some of the results that we've got for January. The first is that 10% more people turned up this January in A&E than the previous year. So 1.9 million people.
Well, no wonder they're under strain then.
So there's a significant strain there.
Yeah.
And if you think about the other thing that affects hospitals, it's trying to make sure that once people arrive, they're seen very quickly, and what you've got to do is decide how to treat them or admit them, and that's what you've got 4 hours to do. And then you either discharge them or you bring them in. And if you bring them in, you need to have beds. Part of the problem we've got is that we've seen a 10% increase in delayed transfers of care from hospital. So this is people who can go home, medically fit to go home, but are just stuck in the hospital. And the big driver of that is the availability of social care. In fact, the vast majority of that increase is down to social care, and that delay because of no social care support at home, that's gone up 32% in a year. So it's a combined impact of lots of people in the front door, and we can't get people out the back door.
In a way, if you look at it like a production line almost, you can see there are bottlenecks all over, and that's, if you've got social care not able to take people out of the hospital, then almost there is a build-up necessarily in hospital beds, and if there's a build-up in hospital beds, there's probably a build-up in A&E. So maybe the system, maybe you have to start at the end, as it were, and get social care right, and then it would help everything else.
I think that's exactly right. The position at the moment is we've seen something like 500,000 people taken out of social care support in the last 5 years, and we've seen social care budgets under significant strain. The government understands that and is addressing that over the next couple of years, but the money doesn't start coming into social care at a level it needs to until 2018-19. Now, one of the things that the Chancellor could do next week would be to think very carefully about bringing forward some of the promised funding for social care into next year, because I think if you look at what it does to people, we've got people stuck in hospital who need and want to be at home, and we've got people coming into hospital because they haven't had the social care that they need. Now, that seems to me to be the wrong thing to do in terms of policy, but economically it's a folly as well, because it's much cheaper to support people in a social care setting than it is in hospital, probably about a third to a half of the cost.
I was talked to a couple of doctors who are saying that they're under huge pressure, numbers of people who are just, there are more people turning up in surgeries, and they're more demanding, that there is a kind of social aspect to this, that we tend to demand more and we want it more quickly as well.
Well, the last thing we should do is blame the patients. I think we've got a system at the moment, if you look at Professor Keith Willett's report into urgent and emergency care in England, what it says is we've made it quite confusing for people. So there are multiple access points, and what we really need to do is make it simpler. And make it clear for you. Look, there are ways you can look after yourself, ways you can get support from pharmacies, ways you can get support from your GP, which means you don't have to go to A&E. There's great support on NHS choices around decision support and so on. But we've made things quite complicated. We shouldn't be blaming the patients. We should be trying to see how
I promise while you're here, Rob, not to blame the patient. There was a patient myself. I was trying to blame him myself at the same time. Yeah. I just wonder whether, all right, so you've identified some of the bottlenecks and the stresses and strains here. I just wonder whether the truth is that aren't really financing the system properly, and that, in that last election we didn't really talk about the realities. The realities are we need to spend a lot more money on our health system.
We clearly know that the amount of money that's in NHS hospitals at the moment this year isn't right, because too many of them are in deficit. That'll start to be addressed next year. The thing that won't be addressed is this social care point. And the more that I think we can see social care and health care as two sides of the same coin for a huge number of older people particularly, the better. And what we would say, I know ADAS have suggested this today as well, the Directors of Adult Social Services.
Yeah.
We suggest that, if the Chancellor does anything in the budget next week, it would be to bring forward some of that money to invest in social care, because if you invest in social care, you help the NHS, and even more importantly,